We're laying right now in a place called Head Harbor Passage. It's a prime area for lost fishing gear. We've conducted a ghost gear retrieval program for the last 3 years. It's sort of like hunting for a needle in a haystack anyway. You can't see, so it's a matter of getting gear that will stay on bottom and not tear itself to pieces.
Ghost fishing gear has been classified as the gear that has been abandoned, left, or somehow detached and fallen to the bottom of the ocean.
Fishing gear can become lost for a variety of reasons. Not only do fishermen lose gear because of bad weather or interactions with other fishermen, but also interactions with other marine industries and other vessels. Fishermen often lose gear because other vessels are operating around the gear and will cut it off or drag it. And then it's difficult for them to find their gear, and so it becomes ghost gear.
Consequently, that gear can continue to fish. Some of them can fish for years.
£1.25.
It causes a lot of problems for the environment, for animals that get trapped in it, can get entangled in it, and it causes problems for fishermen because it's lost revenue.
A lot of the lobsters would be too big to get out of the escape fence that's designed there to release. 5 lobsters not trapped. Of course, they just die, and then when they die, they make bait for more lobsters to crawl in, so the trap can fish for years. 15. So if they're retrieved, it's a tremendous help to actually the lobster biomass.
When there is ghost gear on the bottom, it actually can snag gear that's fishing, and so that creates more ghost gear, and then you end up with these big snarls that tangle up. So we say ghost gear begets more ghost gear.
Traps have a snowball effect. Some of the bigger snarls as high as 30 traps. Some of the traps was 10 years old, and as the years progressed, each year they gathered more.
There's an enhanced benefit to cleaning up one trap. You may actually be preventing several traps from getting lost. In 2008, Fundy North Fishermen's Association started our ghost gear retrieval project. Fundy North Fishermen's Association is a membership-based commercial fishermen's association in southwest New Brunswick. And it was a small group of fishermen that came together 25 years ago and said, we really need to have a strong united voice in this region. And so they formed Fundy North, and we work on every issue under the sun that has to do with fishing. The association has grown to about 150 members, and our fishermen fish throughout the Bay of Fundy.
Bay of Fundy is a special area. It has many attributes that allow a large number of marine mammals and marine organisms to survive and have a very strong natural history. There is a tremendous amount of water that enters and leaves the bay every day. 1 billion or more gallons of water that goes up the bay with the tides and then returns out of the bay, bringing along with it many nutrients for marine mammals and marine organisms to feed upon. And it's a good place to come if you're a right whale and to bring your calves in as they start to feed as well. There's been a major attempt to save the population.
Well, ghost fishing gear can kill indiscriminately all sorts of species. Something that's really important to us here are the whales that can get entangled. They can do a lot of damage to whales.
So the more ghost gear we can take and remove out of the marine waters, better chances for the right whale, better chances for other marine organisms that get caught.
The last thing any fisherman wants to see is our fishing gear entangled on a whale. We decided to see if we could retrieve the ghost gear. We started in St. John Harbor, which is an industrial port, and there's a lot of ship traffic there, and fishermen were losing a lot of gear due to some of the industrial activities in the area. So we started doing that with grapples that the fishermen had designed. It's a very shallow area, so it's easy to work there, and we were really successful. And then we decided, why not try an area that's a little bit harder? So we determined that there was an area around the islands where a lot of gear has been lost, and it's also an area where there's a lot of whales in the summertime. So that became a priority area.
We use this area between Spruce Island and Head Harbor Lighthouse because it's a place with a tremendous amount of current rushing through due to the shoals. It's a highly density in fishing, and the water goes from 0 to 500 feet deep in a matter of a quarter of a mile, and tremendous amount of currents and whirlpools. So there's a lot of gear tangles and lost gear here compared to other areas. It's frequented by whales and porpoise, and quite often that they're worried about getting caught in the float rope and stuff.
Luckily, we have some really smart fishermen who engineered the grapple and the technique. Reed Brown was the main person there who did that work, and a lot of people said you won't be able to do it there, it's just too hard, but he has been incredibly successful, and now several other fishermen have been, on their boats, have been working following Reed's lead.
3 years ago, I was asked by Fundy North if I thought I could build and design a grapple to retrieve lost lobster traps out of 400 and 500 feet of water. So I designed these. They seem to work well. This bunch of stuff here is a small chunk of debris that we get off the bottom. There's several different types of fishing gear. There's some trap rope, a piece of fish dragger net, a piece of wear twine, some heads out of a lobster trap, some lost hooks and plastic line for hand lining. And then the worst of it is there's a junk of gill net, and sometimes when we get the bigger junk, there's lobsters caught in it and crabs and other marine life that's filed up in it is just going to die. And so we've retrieved a fair amount of this stuff over the years. There's a lot of different stuff we get off the bottom that has a detrimental effect to the marine life. These grapples were designed, everything is solid steel. They have to go to the bottom of the deep water. The hooks on them are tapered down to a wedge shape, so if you just hook the rope, it will jam, not slip through. We also designed the points out by the head of the grapple a little bit, so when it gets caught on a rock, sometimes it will tip up and dump itself clear. Can we get you down hooked right there, the stuff off it? They're built out of high-grade, what they call 400 steel, so they won't bend. Okay, we're gonna go on the outside of that one, isn't it? Because it's mostly rocky bottom and ledgy where we're grappling, so it's quite a challenge to keep moving them on the rough bottom, but they've survived now 3 years without bending up. We just caught a half a suit of bottom twine for a wear. And I guess a few sticks in it, and that's it. Probably 700 or 800 pound of netting. We was in 420 feet of water. They weigh approximately 1,000 pounds total, so it was kind of widely believed that we wouldn't be able to retrieve any lost gear in that much water, but we had a fair amount of success. We've done a fairly good job, I think, of retrieving it according to the fishermen. They don't lose as many traps the last 2 seasons after we took some what I'd call massive big snarls as high as 30 traps and 8,000 feet of rope in the snarl, and other debris from logs to trees to aquaculture debris all wound up in it. And since we've removed it from the area, I think it's been a successful project. Gill net for cod fishing. Been there. I don't think they've run any for 20 years.
We just know that the marine animals, and when you look at it with the right whale and the state of endangerment right now, we know that removing all that is quite a good thing for them.
This is probably one of the most successful projects we've ever done. I'd say we've cleaned up the majority of the problem in the lost gear in that area. And what I really like to hear is fishermen call the office and say, thank you, we really can see that there's less gear in this area and we haven't lost gear as much as we had before. It would be really great if it can be worked on in other areas, because we thought it's possible that other fishermen in other areas might have this problem, and so they might be interested in the techniques we're using. The other thing we're hoping is more public awareness and awareness amongst other industries that there are some really constructive, easy ways to work with the fishing industry so that we don't lose gear. And also, when a ship cuts off gear, the rope can get entangled in their prop. So it's kind of a win-win. The fishermen don't lose money, the whales don't get entangled, the lobsters don't get trapped and die, and the other vessels don't have their vessels in dry dock because they're all wrapped up with rope or fishing gear. It's a problem that can be solved. That's really encouraging.
And not only does the project work very hard to bring conservation and increase the population of the right whale, we're talking about fishermen who are partners and who are living out a stewardship ethic, attempting very hard to not harm any of the ecosystem.
It's a really positive message that we can all give to the public when we work together.
I think it's been a good project. I've enjoyed doing it. It's sort of like fishing, but you got to catch some traps to make it enjoyable.